Good morning everyone. Once again I am here to take your as usual class. So let's go ahead with our same chapter that we had started in our previous class, that is Michelangelo. I hope everybody is following the chapter well. So now today I am going to teach you the next page of the same chapter, that is page number 35. Here I begin with the second para of the same page. Please listen it carefully and try to understand it. So here I begin. Then the Pope had asked him to paint the frescoes for the Sistine Chapel. In this way, Pope once again request to Michelangelo to go ahead with his work of painting frescoes. Here it means the walls and the ceilings, painting of walls and ceilings of the Sistine Chapel. He had refused at first. Initially, he refused it, telling the Pope point blank that he was a sculptor and not a painter. The reason behind, he tells to the Pope that he is not a painter, he is a sculptor. This shows his dislike regarding this work of painting in the initial stage. This is what we come to understand here, children. He later agreed to a meeting in Rome, but later on he agreed when he had a meeting with Pope in Rome, because it was the one creation that would ensure him a place in history. Later on he realizes that if he is able to do this work of painting successfully, that it would be like a history being created. He would be recognized as a successful painter. This is what he thought, and then he agreed later on to paint the frescoes of Sistine Chapel. Not that immortality could be reason enough for Michelangelo. He had certain other immediate needs in his ephemeral. Okay, it was not that he was going to become immortal by doing such type of work of painting, but he was also in requirement. He also needed some important things for himself, for his own personal purposes. Ephemeral, here it means, meaning of ephemeral is lasting a short time. So this is what we come to know, that although Michelangelo was initially not interested for the work of painting, but later on he likes to do it. He is agreed now because he also had his own personal requirements. Most of all, he needed money to buy marble. Above all, what was his most requirement? His most requirement thing it was that he needed the marbles desperately. Okay, that is why he had agreed now with the Pope's proposal of painting the frescoes of the Sistine Chapel. The Pope had promised him money, but he had never given it. Several times Pope had promised Michelangelo that he would be giving him sufficient amount of money regarding his work of painting, but he had never given it in practical. When Michelangelo reminded him, he had asked testily, "Why do you love stone so much? Why not canvas and colors?" But in different occasions, when Michelangelo had reminded the Pope regarding his requirement of money, instead Pope had instead asked to him, "Why do you love stone so much? You are going to do the work of painting. You need canvas, you need colors. Why you are so much eager and excited about the stones so much?" This is how the Pope had asked him whenever he was asking the Pope regarding his requirements of money. Colors merged Michelangelo had restored. They lose their identity and mix with others, unlike marble. This is the type of response that Michelangelo had given to Pope Julius, that generally in time and occasion the colors they merge, they mix up. Okay, they merge, Michelangelo told, they lose their identity. Later on it is not going to give any type of identity at all and mix with others, unlike marbles. But marbles do not leave such type of impressions. That is what the type of reason that Michelangelo had given to Pope. 4 years had sped fast ever since he had started work on the frescoes in the chapel. In this way, time passed. It was not quite known how easily the period of 4 years it had passed, and he had been working onto the frescoes of Sistine Chapel. his sculpting had come to a standstill because of his painting work. Now the work of sculpting was now at the moment standstill. It was behind, it was left behind, So, and Angelo was as bored with colors as he was with Rome. He wanted to finish the painting, the Last Supper, but his imagination failed him each time it came to the face of Judas. Now, this work of painting had become very boring for him, isn't it? Regularly and continuously painting for a long period of time, it had made him fed up. He was now no more liking to do this and continuing this particular work of painting anymore. And above all, the painting of this Last Supper was such a type of work that which had now made him so much fed up, because he was not finding such a suitable face, suitable person or personality who could be very good and suitable enough for the personality of Judas. He was finding such face desperately. His was an impossible face to conceive. Now, everybody's face he was able to paint and make a good picture of it over the walls and the ceilings, but here he was finding very difficult to find out that particular picture or the face of Judas, which made him very much conceive. Conceive here it means he had to imagine a lot. He was not able in a state to imagine the face of Judas. That is why he was quite upset at the moment. Then one day Michelangelo found him. So later on Michelangelo was once again successful to find the similar face which could match with Judas. There he was in the small, dingy eatery in Rome, a man with usually bright, beady eyes. This particular person, the face of this particular person he was able to meet when he was one day, there was in that small, dingy eatery in Rome. Here he was able to find out such a person whose face it could resemble with Judas. Now finally he was able to get such a person's face which could be compared with, which could be make a comparison with Judas, and he could now make the face of Judas also onto those frescoes of Sistine Chapel. Okay, the man was brimming with restless energy, spitting here and there. The person, this particular man with whom he had made, looked quite very busy. He was brimming here and there, okay, and he was brimming with, and he was running here and there and spitting here and there everywhere into that surroundings where he was at the moment. He was prematurely bald, and when he talked, the words tumbled out fast like coins from a torn pocket. How he looked like? He was bald-headed, okay, and whenever he talked, his voice, his words which it came out from his tongue, his mouth, it was as if the coins which were falling out, the coins from a torn pocket, when it falls down, the sounds which are produced are similar type of those sounds which the man was speaking at the moment. This type of nature that the man possessed, which Michelangelo was able to here find out and recognize. The man sidled here it means moved in a stealthily manner. This type of nature he had up to Angelo's asking for change for a florin. The man came forward to Michelangelo and asked for a change. Florin. Florin here it means old coins of Florence. He wanted some change from Michelangelo. Okay. And ended up sharing his food. Later, Michelangelo saw the beady-eyed man at it again. Once again, Michelangelo noticed, he observed him, he studied his face thoroughly so that it would be much more easier enough for him at the time when he would be doing the work of painting. So this type of a kind of keen observation that Michelangelo made with that beady-eyed man. Okay. He was asking someone else for change for a florin. Now at the moment it was found that he was busy asking somebody else for the change of florins. Okay, so this is what we call here, we understand here about the entire chapter. In this page we have come to know about the various situations and various circumstances which makes Michelangelo to face regarding his work of painting into that Sistine Chapel, into the frescoes of Sistine Chapel. Now let us move to the next page, children. It is page number 36. Here I go with the very first para of this page. As Michelangelo watched the man, he realized that this was how the man tricked people for food. In this way, after meeting with this strange man, by understanding and knowing the nature of this man, he was able to understand it very clear that how a man could trick another man just for the need of food. He would ask someone for change for a florin as an excuse for sharing their food. By just asking a change for a florin, how the person could make an excuse for sharing the food. This is a type of trick that a person could use to fool the other person. This is what he was able to understand here. It was not difficult for Angelo to persuade the beady-eyed man to accompany him to the chapel. In this way, it was quite easier enough for Michelangelo to persuade this particular beady-eyed man to accompany him, to give him a kind of accompany means to give a kind of support for himself for the painting of Sistine Chapel, because he needed such type of character at the moment. For whose place? For Judas' place. This man's face could be a suitable face for the painting of Judas in the Sistine Chapel. That is what Michelangelo was able to realize here. Michelangelo explained to the man that he wanted to use his face as a model for Judas. Now he reveals his secret here. He talks with the man. I want you, my dear man, I need you, because I need your type of personality to make a painting over the frescoes of Sistine Chapel for the character of Judas. This is what he reveals here with that man now. It will make you immortal. If you will agree, your face is going to be immortal in the Sistine Chapel. I promise, Michelangelo said solemnly. Solemnly means with full of request, isn't it? As he lifted the sheets covering the walls and the ceiling. The man gaped, awestruck. He recovered enough to ask for a tidy sum. Tidy sum, here it means a large amount of money. Initially, the man was not able to speak at all, anything. He just kept on looking towards to Michelangelo, but later on he just spoke out and asked for a very good amount of money for this particular work. Michelangelo promptly agreed, and there was no any options for Michelangelo also, so he agreed with the proposal made by that man. From that day on, the man came regularly to sit for Michelangelo. In this way, children, you see, from that particular day onwards, that man regularly kept on coming to Michelangelo to sit in front of him so that his face could be used for the painting of Judas. One day, the man stood in Michelangelo's studio, browsing through a pile of old sketches. Suddenly, he paused at the picture of the urchin from Bologna. Who is this child? He asked. So one day, when the work of painting was going on as usual, so this particular man happens to go just nearby that painting, the painting of urchin. Okay, urchin from Bologna. I think you remember that small child. Okay, the naked small child whose painting that Michelangelo had made. Then, by looking such a beautiful, innocent child's painting over the walls and the ceiling, here the man happens to ask to Michelangelo, whose picture is this? Who is this child? He asked. He used to live in Bologna many years ago. Michelangelo said, I gave little Jesus the face of this child. So this child lives in Bologna. He is a small child. He is from Bologna, and I gave this little child as Jesus' face. When Jesus was small like this child, might be he was also looking like the same child. That is why I took the face of this little child in order to make the face of Jesus Christ when he was a child. This is how here Michelangelo makes him understand and realize about this particular innocent child's painting work over the walls and the ceilings of this Sistine Chapel. Do you remember this child's name? Yes, Marceline, said Michelangelo. Yes, I remember this child's name. His name is Marceline. This is how Michelangelo said. The man smiled he rolled up his sleeves. There was a name tattooed on his arm. So in this way, by listening the name of Marceline, the man happens to smile first. Then slowly and gradually, he happens to roll up his sleeves of his shirt. Okay, he starts rolling over the sleeves up of his shirts. There was a name tattooed on his arm, and there was a name inscribed, tattooed over the arms. Okay, it was written a name there over the arms of that man. There was a name tattooed over his arms, and the name was nobody else, and it was the name of Marceline. I am that child, and that same child, Marceline. Today I have grown up and I have become a bigger man today now. So you have found the right person. When I was small, you have taken my face to make it the painting of Jesus Christ. Now today you have found the same child once again, and the same child today I am grown up, and you have found me as to paint as the picture of, or the face of Judas today now. He whose face you are giving to Judas today, he is the same boy whose face now today you are going to give to Judas today. This is how the man reveals the truth about his childhood and today's his adulthood period of time, which has made such a difference here. And Michelangelo was very shocked, I think, to find this out, isn't it? So this is what we come to learn here, children, about the entire chapter, entire story that we had come to know here and understand here. I guess everybody has followed the chapter very well and understood it well too. If it is so, it is very nice. So please keep on following the chapters, listening the chapters, and looking all those videos of earlier chapters too, so that it will be easier for you to understand everything well, and everything will go fine for you too. So this much for today. I will stop it here now. So goodbye and take care.